Well, it turns out running a Formula 1 team is still painfully difficult. I decided instead of streaming the pain of the second half of my season, and oh boy, was it painful, I'd play it off stream and do another rundown. I might do this in the future for the 2025 season depending on how I feel about it. These videos are a pain to edit. I'm going to address everything about the 2025 season at the end of the video, but I will say right now that I won't be including anything in this current save that I am playing on. With that out of the way, let me go over the format of this video. It's still the same as last time. No practice sessions by default. Qualifying sessions are likely just a quick recap of where we ended up, and I'll likely recap the results of races if literally nothing happened. And this video might be shorter than the last one because, oh boy, this second half, again, was painful. Both cars made it to Q2, but not Q3. Teo ended up P11 and Mick P12 after Piastri sandbagged until the end of Q2, bumping Teo out of a chance of making it into Q3. As for the race, everything was relatively calm. Surprisingly, Teo managed to make his way up into P10 on the opening lap, but of course a couple laps later he ends up falling back to P12. Mick fell back to P16. For the second time this season, Teo somehow just magically developed a puncture. I genuinely have no idea how this happens. I'd argue it's a bug at this point because I don't know what the main cause even is, and I don't think I've experienced any other AI cars having these issues with fresh tires. If someone knows, please tell me. I have no idea what's happening, and I'm scared. Otherwise, it's Hungary, so nothing exciting really happens. By the end of the race, Mick is P13 one lap down, and Teo P21 2 laps down because of the puncture. Spa. The start of the downfall of Teo from my team. I'll just let this clip play as it happened when I was recording this.
We've got a yellow flag here. Now we're watching the action closely here. There! That's the moment of impact. And the car leaving a bit of paint on that barrier. But no matter the severity of the crash, it's always good to see the driver emerge unharmed.
We make it to Q2 as per usual, with Teo qualifying P13, but Mick got very lucky in making it to Q3 as Red Bull, if I had to guess from personal experience later on this season, had violated Parc Ferme with Perez's setup, so he was not sent out. Mick ends up P10, but 3/10 off of Alonso's time. Midway through the race, practically on merit, Mick and Teo are running P9 and P10. Keep in mind, we haven't had any sort of upgrades since Japan and Monaco, which even then I haven't really mentioned in my videos, which is a mistake of mine, but this late in the season, it's still pretty impressive, I would say. The downside of Teo's stop is that the back portion of the field is a little bit closer, so he falls back to P18, and Mick gets a significant amount luckier when he pits from P8 and only exits P9. After stops for the other drivers, Teo makes his way back up to P11 with 10 laps to go, where... Oh. Well, it'll rain again pretty quickly, so that's more than okay. By the end of the race, it's Mick P9 in the points once again, and Teo P11. Zandvoort. Zandvoort. The solidification... Why did I choose that? Did I choose solidification for Spa? No, I did. Zandvoort. The solidification of Teo no longer being a part of my team. Once again, I will just let the clip play out as is.
Right, we're at turn 9. That's the location for this one. Clearly unable to take evasive action. They do need to be careful in these practice sessions.
So normally I would have done like a video thing by now, but as I'm recording this, I just don't have my microphone active. I think the first time I've seen a red flag in practice, so I guess it is potentially possible, and I guess it might be possible in qualifying, but the fact that Teo wrecked for a 4th time this season, twice in practice, in the last like 2 races, or was it 3 races? Twice in the last 3 races, I think, in practice, and he's wrecked. I've been working on his, like, I set them to work on his control, too. His car control and everything, so... Maybe I just won't renew his contract. I already have his saves up and everything, but I genuinely don't think I'm going to renew his contract. I mean, granted, this save is going to get nuked anyway, so... It doesn't exactly matter for this save in particular, but... Oh my god, in at least headcanon, I don't think I'm renewing his contract because what the fuck, man? Okay, right, back to me doing what I was doing beforehand and back to VO me. Okay, I'm back. P3. Let's see what car parts are damaged, because I genuinely don't know if I could even finish out this entire season. I just got a new rear wing, man. Chassis, I just got a new chassis, too. Are you fucking kidding me? I literally just got a new chassis. Like, I just made a new chassis. Do we have a new rear wing? We do. Okay, great. This engine's completely fucked, so that's fantastic. It's not like it matters which one I choose. This ERS is, we're gonna have to spend $2.5 million. I knew we were gonna have to spend $2.5 million. I didn't think it would have to be this soon. I was hoping for, like, after the... Okay, that's fine. This gearbox might be fucked as well for the last race of the season. We'll see. Cool. Man, I sure love having to manage Teo Porcher. I am gonna have to look at his control after this race, because I thought for a fact that, like, we built it up just fine. Mick hasn't had these problems, but somehow Teo has, and I don't get why. But we'll send out Teo and Mick on the same set of tires, same amount of laps. This is just P3. I don't know why I'm still talking. I'm gonna go back to doing what I was doing, which is watching YouTube and doing this in the background. Take it away, me in the future, or present, or whatever you want to call it. Mick qualifies P18, Teo qualifies P15. Leave it to Zandvoort to produce some sort of a rain race again. I decided to have Teo pit on lap 13, and then have Mick pit the next lap. After practically holding off Sainz on merit and having Sainz go to pit road, Mick stays P12 as Verstappen closes in, and Teo still staying in P14. I decided it's best for Mick to just not fight Max, and that moves Mick down to P13. One pit stop later, and we're P11 and P12 as I decided to double stack Mick and Teo for a surprise third stop compared to what was projected. Wait, what do you mean it's drying? Alright, well, I guess with just enough laps left in the race, Mick is one of the last drivers to box from the inters to the softs, but not exactly by choice. If I remember this race correctly, I set Mick to pit the next lap, but I guess I cancelled it and never re-enabled it. But regardless, he did end up closing the gap to Ocon and was actually matching the lap time of Gasly, but of course it was too little too late for anything meaningful. Mick still a solid P11 and Teo P15. Mick qualifies P17, Teo P15. Teo then continues his trend of generating even more debt for us, although this time was definitely a bit weird and I would say more unintentional on his part. He gets forced off the track by Alonso, and then the floor of Teo's car just apparently ends up too damaged. Otherwise, Mick P14, Teo P22, and nothing to write home about here at Monza. Well, Baku was definitely a race. Teo didn't get the best lap, which means it was all down to Mick to get us into Q2, except he only qualifies in P18. Well, shit, okay. Last row start for Teo, P22. This race was much like Baku this year, in 2025, where there's a single car crash early on, except in this case it was lap 11 and Kevin Magnussen, and then absolutely nothing happened through the rest of the race. Except for Piastri crashing later on lap 29 in turn 1, but that was only a virtual safety car. Okay, and there was Bottas running into the back of Stroll on lap 31. Then nothing else happened in the race. Teo P14 and Mick P18. Ah, yes, the true showcase of our lack of upgrades started to show here with Teo qualifying P20 and Mick P22. This carried over into the race with Mick completely falling off the pace even on hard tires, and Teo was able to stick around P12 just fine. It's Singapore though, so nothing Wait, what do you mean it's raining? Okay, well, Teo enters pit lane from P12 and only loses one spot, exiting P13. A safety car or two later, and Teo practically gets gifted a points finish, mainly because of the Ferraris deciding to not have reliability for this race. Leclerc retires because of an engine failure, so Teo P10, Mick P18. Nothing interesting really happens in the sprint. Mick finishes P17, Teo P20. Qualifying for the race, though, Teo gets held up drastically in turn 1 on corner exit by a Mercedes. I genuinely think it's Russell. And while Mick gets to Q2, Teo, well, qualifies last again. Main quali has Mick P16 and Teo P22. This race is kind of more the same, where we just kind of exist in the back of the field. So Teo P19 and Mick P20. And of course, this is the race where Max has finally won the World Drivers' Championship. Quite literally, nothing happens in this week. Teo has qualified P17, Mick qualifies P20, and by the end of the race, it is Teo P16 and Mick P18, where this race is where Red Bull officially claimed the Constructors' Championship.
Celebrating tonight, I bet. Ladies and gentlemen, this year's Constructors' Champions.
Okay, I genuinely forgot this was a sprint weekend as of writing the script, actually. So, oops. For the sprint, Teo finished P17 and Mick P21. In main qualifying, Mick ends up P21 and Teo P16, who was disqualified because I changed his setup violating Parc Ferme. Turns out that's a rule that you can violate, and I've seen that a couple times. Turns out that's why that happens. Oops. And of course it's a wet race, so genuinely nothing really has happened. Teo ends up P19 and Mick P22. Teo only got a couple spots because of a few punctures on the final lap. Hey look, another weekend where I wanted nothing to do with Teo by the time he existed on the track. Turns out, he couldn't just not crash at the end of free practice 3. Of all the sessions he decides to crash, and it's at the very end of FP3. I did choose to manage qualifying where Mick ends up P21, and I willingly chose to just not send out Teo whatsoever, so he's P22. Last row start for us, but I was so annoyed that I just skipped the race, and I didn't even want to bother. But on the bright side, somehow we end up with Teo in P14 and Mick P16. Genuinely no idea how that happened, but you know what, I'll take it. I do apologize for skipping Vegas, but at that point I was just kind of done. I was in the last stretch of recording basically 4 hours and 16 minutes of this portion, and I just wanted to be done. Okay, I'm getting real tired of these sprint weekends, oh my gosh. Teo P15, Mick P16 for sprint qualifying, and the sprint itself, Mick P15, Teo P16, and no, that is not a typo. Regular qualifying is Mick P14 and Teo P16, and much like Qatar in real life, nothing of note in the race. So, Mick P13, Teo P18 by the end. Finally, it's the end of the suffering for this year. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to try and hype up anything. Nothing happens in this race either. Qualifying has Teo P20 and Mick P22. To be fair, maybe the most interesting thing happens in the form of Piastri having the softest contact with the barrier on the final corner coming to lap 19. Seriously, I'm surprised the runoff even goes that far. I actually forgot about that. Of course, because this last race couldn't go right though, Teo spins just before the first DRS zone. And of course, the Alpine Civil War will continue until morale improves, as Gasly makes contact with Ocon into the first chicane in the closing laps. In said closing laps, I noticed that Mick is actually closing the gap to Zhou, and that P20 is genuinely Mick's goal for us to earn at least a little bit of money. So I pulled what Red Bull did in 2021 at the same track. I retired the lower driver in the points on our team. Except in my case, it was to basically give Mick the position and not risk Teo destroying more of our car. So, Mick P20 and Teo P22. Oh, and as I'm editing this, I actually completely forgot that there's a safety car deployed and then a red flag on this last lap because Signs ran out of fuel. I'm just going to let this clip play out as is, but yeah, I guess Signs ran out of fuel at the very end. Here it is. He's just sitting there. And I was wondering how the scoring would even happen because it was already on the final lap. There it goes. Session suspended. All cars to return to pit lane. You can see my mouse movement being like, what does this mean? What do we do? And then it just goes right to the end as normal. So that is the first time that I've had that happen. That is insane, and I greatly enjoyed that. All right, back to me from when I was recording this originally. Huh. Turns out when you're in the back half of the field for the second half of the season, there's a lot less to talk about. Seriously, how do these back half teams in real life actually try and find anything to talk about? Like, seriously, how do they do this? Anyway, we come to my plans for my 2025 season. In order for me to have the 2025 season mod work properly, I had to make a fresh save. And by the way, that mod is linked down below. And that fresh save also means that I lose all my stats from, in this case, a 2024 save. What I'm going to do, though, is pretty much fire Teo. I can't just, no, I'm done with him. I can't deal with his mistakes anymore. Compared to Mick alone, Teo did an awful job. Sure, Teo only DNF'd 4 times, and sure, Kev Magnussen DNF'd 8 times, although I think one of those was because of Teo. And it could be worse, but those wrecks, even in practice in the second half of the season, is what firmly did Teo in for me. Although, technically, I was done with Teo by Canada, because I was actively considering of firing him already, but technicality. So what I'm going to do is pull the season-end stats of Mick, the car's performance, and the team facilities and pit crew stats from the 2024 save file, as you can see here, and then I'm going to manually enter those numbers into the 2025 save file. At the time of writing, I know for a fact I'm putting Mick as the first driver, but I genuinely have no idea who I'm picking as a second driver, and it is very likely that I will sever Teo's contract in-game on stream once I start doing the streams again, which should be, maybe, fingers crossed, checks notes, tomorrow, if not next week. We'll see. I will be streaming those on YouTube as well, not just Twitch. Aside from replacing Teo, I will also be taking into account the $10,113,141 of debt that I ended up with in that save. Thanks, Teo. Really appreciate it. So with Teo's severance, a new hire, and removing that amount of money for that debt, I basically will not start with the, I think, $66 million that I have in my 2025 save. So it's a little bit of a nerf for me. So I don't get like P1 WDC levels of money, basically, or anything close to that. As a guess, I'll likely be around 50 million by the time the first race starts, so we'll see how that fares. And yes, I'm sticking with my team in the 2025 save, because in my headcanon, the title sponsor of the team, AWS, had convinced the board, with a lot of money, to keep me on the team as long as the board gives a more reasonable goal for the season, and that is points contender by 2026. Because I genuinely don't know where those stats will land me, and I don't think I'm going to look at the database editor at all, but I will enter all of that I'll enter all of those stats in real time. Well, I'll say in real time, not like right this second. I'll show me entering those stats on stream, and then I'll include that in the video if anyone really wants me to verify, just like, hey, these are 2 different saves. So I can do that if anyone really wants me to. But otherwise, that does it for the 2024 season. Finally, this hellscape is almost over. I say almost because I have no idea who I'm hiring as a second driver yet. So we'll find out together, because I don't know. But otherwise, hopefully you enjoyed these quick recaps, these mega recaps, basically. Sorry if this video, if this definitely will be a lot shorter than the last one. So I apologize for that. But I forgot to get this out in time. As for other content, I will hopefully have some other stuff in the pipeline. I have plans of what I want to do. I just need to actually do them. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all whenever I decide to upload again. So we'll see. keep an eye on the posts, by the way, for whenever I'm streaming and whatnot, and upcoming content, etc., etc.